Whatever you can remember from that little talk, please remember. And, you know, it is on record. You can come back to it. So this is one of the nice things that Jenny is doing. She is recording things as best as she can so that you can come back to it. And therefore you can be secure in the knowledge that you can have access to that in the same way that you can have access to the floor right now. The floor is right there. It's supporting you. And these recordings are right there, ready to support you in your learning. They will be. They are. Please roll onto your right side and lie on your right side. Bend your legs so that you don't have to be so concerned about your balance. Rest the left leg on top of the right. Have the right arm long in front of you on the floor. Have the right arm long in front of you on the floor. And have the palm of your left hand resting on the floor somewhere near the front of your trunk, or somewhere that you feel it's of use as a means of extra support. Begin to move your right arm along the floor a little bit in an upwards direction, as if you wanted to take it above your head on the floor, and then bring it back. So that is the intended movement that you're exploring. And please use your left arm as you need to help you to move your right arm along the ground. So, matter of fact, you can mobilize the rest of yourself as well, so long as you know that you're remaining lying on your side more or less. And I'll emphasize that, more or less. You can be rolled a little bit backwards, you could be rolled a little forwards, and still be lying on your side, more or less. Now, make that movement of your right arm as comfortable as you can make it, and as extensive as you can make it. And if you can continue, what would it take for the rest of you to allow your right arm to go not only above your head on the floor, but slightly behind the line of the head? And this is where props start to disappear and headrests start to disappear and everything that can potentially interfere starts to go. But some of you, I know, might need something for underneath your head. So if that's the case, do as best as you can using props. Now, as that arm goes behind you, as you slide that right arm on the floor and it goes behind you, which direction do you tend to roll in? Do you tend to roll forwards or do you tend to roll backwards? Please look for a direction of rolling that enables you to take that arm backwards. That's it. That's it. Yeah. And without me even saying it, what I'm seeing in a lot of you is that as soon as your arm goes past a certain point, you flip your arm over so that the palm comes down. And no one told you to do that. You just did it. Which means there's kind of like a skeletal logic. The skeleton is designed in such a way that certain movements need to happen at certain times for the motion to continue. And if you're listening carefully enough, you'll feel when those moments are. In other words, not pushing yourself, but carefully attending. Now, at that moment that the arm needs to pass under the head, you can certainly lift the head. And to lift the head, you please feel free to use that left arm in whatever way makes sense. Remember, you're lying on your side, more or less. You're not rolling like a log onto your front and onto your back. No, 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 no. Okay, let that be, please. Rest on your side or rest on your back. It's your choice. Now, the part of the human skeleton, or the complex of the human skeleton, that probably has one of the most extensive ranges of motion is the arm and the shoulder. The arm and the shoulder are amazingly flexible in where they can go to in space. And some people have argued that comes from biological history at that time when we had to brachiate, when we had to swing through trees. Not only did you need strength to hang onto the tree, you needed mobility to be able to swing from branch to branch, holding onto one branch behind you as you go to reach for the next branch in front of you. So that's the kind of line of thinking with some people. Now, stay lying on your side, but this time, could you please place your right arm behind you on the floor? Directly behind you. And to do that, you'll need to roll yourself a little forward, but remain lying on your side. And begin to do with your right arm what you did when it was in front of you. Start to slide it up a little bit along the floor, come back. Slide it a little bit somewhere else, come back. Remember the mouse story from this morning? The little mouse that goes looking and then comes back, and then goes looking and then comes back. So make many, many journeys. And you're free to bend your elbow whenever you like. You're free to flip the arm whenever you like. You're free to even lift your torso a little bit from the floor whenever you like. Whatever makes it easy, so long as you know that you're oriented to the floor through your right side. That's okay. Do it against the wall. You know, here. No, you can give yourself more latitude if you do it against the wall. Take your time. Now, for some individuals, there's this very awkward moment as the hand gets higher and higher relative to your shoulders. If you don't start to do something with the shoulder blades, then your arm can kind of get stuck. So when you get to that place, when you're anticipating, oh, it's going to get a little bit stuck here, back off and see, can you move the shoulder a little bit around? Can somehow that movement of the shoulder blade and the collarbone at the front, could that somehow let you take the arm a little further around? That's it. And for those of you that feel that you need to lift your trunk a little bit higher from the floor, please feel free to do that. And you can use that left arm to push a little bit to help you lift so that you can get enough clearance for that right arm to get around. Now, a few more movements, and just to alert you that if you have your legs long, your brain is now very, very preoccupied with keeping you balanced. But as soon as you bend your legs a little bit, the bending of the legs gives you more of a platform. Your brain is no longer so occupied with keeping you balanced. And suddenly, other things free up. Okay, let that be. Rest in any position you like. Bless you. Oh, bless you again. Return to lying on your right side. Have the legs bent. Have the left hand somewhere on the floor in front of you, a place that it's useful. And now, please bend your right arm so that your elbow is nudging up against the front of yourself, probably around lower rib height, waist height. Move yourself in such a way that you can take that elbow underneath yourself a little bit and then bring the elbow back out again. So it's like you make a little arching movement in your trunk. Just take the elbow underneath yourself, bring it back out. Underneath yourself, bring it back out. The right arm is in front of you. Yeah. And now bring the right elbow underneath yourself. And no, you've taken it all the way back. Just bring it underneath yourself. That's it. Too far too soon. Bring it forward again. That's it. Just do that. Become really acquainted with what you need to do in the rib cage, how the spine needs to change shape. And particularly, notice that right hip on the floor. that right hip on the floor kind of almost acts like a pillar. You can push into the floor with that right hip, and you can lift yourself, you can arch yourself through that right side. Now, take the elbow a little bit further through so that you get to mid-forearm level. And then slip the arm forward of yourself again. So you're not quite through the tunnel yet. You're halfway through, and then you come back out. Halfway through, and then come back out. And then if you're ready, go all the way up to hand level. So you're almost through the tunnel. And come back out. And then if you're really ready, take the hand all the way through until it rests behind you. And then take it all the way through until it's in front of you again. Threading the arm underneath yourself, elbow first, until the arm is behind, and then threading the arm underneath yourself, fingers first, until the arm is in front. With each repetition, find a way to make the movement even easier and even lighter. Easier and lighter with every repetition. That's it. Nice. And notice that as you take your arm backwards through the arch, the tendency is to roll forwards. And as you take the fingers underneath the arch and then the arm through the arch forwards, the tendency is to roll backwards. So really, there is no need to keep yourself still. So long as you know that you haven't rolled completely onto your back, that's fine. So long as you know that you haven't rolled completely onto your front, that's fine. That means you're still on your side. Okay, stop, pause, rest yourself for a little while. Now, a moment ago, I said, see with every repetition whether you can make it easier, lighter. And that would be wonderful. That would be truly wonderful if with each repetition we just kept on improving. But really, that's not how learning goes. We make a little bit of headway and then we kind of drop back a little bit. We make a few mistakes and then we recover from that. Then we make a little bit more headway and then we make a few mistakes and then we make a little bit more. So learning is not this just ongoing progress of improvement. There's hiccups. But if your intention is, let me see if I can find a way to make it easier. if I can find a way to make it feel lighter. If that's your intention, then you are on a pathway. You just keep focused on that pathway, and improvement is inevitable because you know what you're looking for. Please return to lying on your right side. Lie with your right arm behind you. And now please, you think this through before you start to explore it. Just think it through. Think of introducing your fingertips into that gap, making that archway in your right side, and then think of the right arm coming all the way under and through that archway, straightening, 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 and then starting to make a circle around yourself, upwards, above the head, behind you, until the fingers are once again poised behind you to go through that archway. So just a few times, think through that maneuver. Think through that intent. The fingers are poised behind, you thread the fingers through, the rest of the arm comes through, it lengthens and it starts to make a circle, forwards, up, above the head, behind you, you're rolled forwards a little bit, and you come to a certain point, you bend the elbow until the fingers are once again poised behind you, ready to go through the archway. And it could be that in your imagination, you already recognize moments of difficulty. Because those moments of difficulty will be in exactly those places that you can't imagine being in. There seems to be some correlation between your ability to see, imagine yourself moving through places and places where you can't imagine that. Okay. In your own time, start to do that which you were thinking of. If you want to, you can certainly involve your legs in this. If you've started off with the legs in quite a bent position, the act of unbending your legs a touch, not necessarily completely straightening them, but unbending them could help you to send the arm further and further above your head and behind you. And then to get the arm underneath yourself, the act of bending your legs up could help you make that arch. That little archway for your hand and arm to pass under. That's it. And then that left hand can be so useful. So useful. And there's only a moment in time that it has to come off the floor, and that's when the right arm has to go underneath it. Bloop. That's it. Is it a little bit warmer in the room today compared to yesterday? No, I was just asking. Oh, good. Good. Because yesterday it was really cold up along the floor. Change direction. And when you get to that part in the circle where the arm is behind you and starting to arc up above the head, go slowly. Go slowly so that you don't wrench your arm. You really, at that moment, want to move very collaboratively through yourself. Yes? You really want the whole body to work like a community at that moment. So you've got the community of the rib cage, all those ribs. You've got the community of the spine, the shoulder girdle, the neck, the pelvis, the legs. If the whole community works together, then it's more possible to do. Okay, let that be. Pause. This notion of the whole of yourself working synergistically, working in a way that supports the intent, is fundamental to this work. And what you first discover is what Feldenkrais would call first approximation. Yep, that good, I can do it. And it's kind of, it's all the way through. But if you go on a little bit longer, you get to the second approximation, and then you discover, things are still working cooperatively, but the cooperation is much more refined. I don't need to lift myself off the floor as much. I don't need to roll forwards and backwards as much. And then there's the third approximation. And there's even more refinement in the third approximation. And then really the approximation goes on, because if you want to continue improving, there is no limit to improving the quality of what you're doing right now. Really, I'm being very honest here. There is no limit. You can just continuously improve the quality of what you're doing. So it's the nth infinity approximation. Return to lying on your right side. Now, for those of you who are feeling that what you're lying on is interfering a little bit, please feel free to lie on the carpet. Because our nervous systems can detect when the slightest possibility of interference arises, especially when you're in this attuned zone. Please make a big circle around yourself using that coordination that you've just learned. Circle that right arm all the way around yourself. All the way around. Over the top, behind you, underneath. Kenwood Mixmaster. Sorry. And if you find a moment where the coordination is still a little bit lumpy, stay there. Go a little bit backwards and forwards at that place until you kind of smooth out the lumps. And that just simply means you can stay focused with your attention on that part of the coordination until you sense what you need to do. And then the coordination becomes smooth. The next time that your elbow is just in front of your ribs, in the front of you, stop there. And once again, in your imagination, think to yourself, in one quick movement, can you take your arm through and have it behind you? Can you just think that? One quick movement, ploop, and it's there. And then in one quick movement, ploop, and it's forward of yourself again. Ploop, behind, ploop, in front. Sort of like a blink. And go ahead and do that. That's it. Blink, blink. And this might be one of those little moments where you just feel like, oh, I think that could be better. So you just make it better. You just do it a little bit slower and then speed it up again. A little bit slower, speed it up again. Blink, blink. If it's possible to go faster, go faster. Forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. That's it. It's almost like a locomotive movement. Now, to go fast, you're going to have to reduce friction. Otherwise, the friction will slow you down. So what are you learning right now? You're learning how to organize yourself to do fast movement. Walking around the room, I could see that most of you had that coordination of moving the arm around you lovely. So now you can go to the next step. Go fast. That's nice. That's great. Cool. Good choice of supporting surface. Nice, Lucky. Fantastic. So yes, all your mattresses should be made of satin. All right, let that be rest. You know how earlier this morning I remembered, start at the knees, please, with the yogi bar, There's something about re-triggering memories that is very context or content specific. Sometimes it's to do with a smell. You know, you're walking past a place and you smell something and you go, oh, that reminds me of that time when I was in that coffee shop. Or you're walking past something and a piece of, just a little strain of music hits your ear and it rekindles a memory. Some remembering has this kind of quality that it can be triggered. The same thing applies when you're working in awareness through movement. If you're lying on your back right now, and I asked you to remember what you just did a moment ago, you'll be able to recall it. But you'd be better able to recall it if you were more configured in the shape that you were doing it in. It just seems to be like that. As you become more proficient in imagining, well, guess what? You're no longer so dependent on being in the same context, in the same scenario. You can just recall. Please lie on your right side again. Just lie in that position, either with your arm behind you or in front of you. Your choice according to your comfort. And imagine yourself taking that right arm around you very fast. Some of you have become very confident in taking the arm forwards and backwards very fast. So you take the next step. And if you can't imagine the whole circle as being fast, don't do it until you can imagine it. Until you can make mental contact with where the arm is at each moment in the circle around yourself. So that's the invitation. Keep on imagining, keep on imagining, keep on imagining until you can imagine the whole pathway of the arm all the way around yourself and at a speed that you know is acceptable to you. And when that image is fully present, go ahead and do it once. Do it once. And then stop again and reimagine. See if you can add more information to the image based on your experience. So information is based on experience. And then stop again, imagine, do, stop, imagine, do, stop, imagine, do, stop, imagine, do, until you get to the fastest speed that you can go and it feels like nothing to do. So literally, you're running a simulation. At that moment that you're not doing anything, you're running a simulation in your mind. And you're making that simulation as vivid as you possibly can. So, you know, in the field of animation, cinema animation, they haven't quite got to that place yet where they're able to animate figures and it's totally convincing that they're moving like a human being. And I can't remember, but there is a very particular term that they use of that little gap where a person watching that animated figure couldn't tell whether it was animated or not. The closer they get to that, the more uncomfortable the observer feels. That's what's interesting. Because there's some dissonance. There's something that's not present there. And some part of the person watching that movie goes, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. When you've done that to your satisfaction, please lie on your back and rest. So this is a one-sided lesson. Please roll to one side, come up to standing, and note the difference that you feel between one side and the other. Just maybe once or twice, raise the right arm towards the ceiling. Note what that feels like. Notice how close the arm gets to your head. And then once or twice, raise the left arm to the ceiling and notice the difference between the two arms. Do the ribs engage differently? Do the shoulder blades engage differently? The spine? Good. And that's enough. Go walking and see if the arms move differently when you walk. Whether the sides of your chest are involved differently when you walk. Whether the pelvis moves differently when you walk, one side and the other. And please have a break. Please have a break.